very excited about our next guest, David Tauber. He's a financial advisor in Connecticut. Now, David, you've had an incredible career. You're Navy, I'm former Army. How did you get to where you're at?
It's an interesting question, Tom. I actually played football in college. Always thought I was going to go pro. You know, from when I was in high school, little kid, I'm going to be a pro football player. And that didn't work out. And got inspired to join the Navy during the first Gulf War. And became a nuclear engineer on a submarine. And I was on a fast attack submarine. There was very limited crew, so we had about 120 guys. Everybody had an ancillary duty. And long story short, I was a Navy diver, a scuba diver. Used to do security dives around the sub before we leave port. I was a public affairs officer. I was obviously a nuclear reactor operator, but they asked, is anybody would be interested in being a financial affairs advocate, which is basically, you know, some of the younger crew members talking about opening checkbooks and maybe getting a mortgage or investments. And I raised my hand and said, yeah, I'd like to do that. And I'd done some investing in college, you know, read Forbes magazine, Barron's, like everybody else. And met with younger kids, talked about different investments, talked about financial planning. Not that I was an expert, but I just got a rush from these kids listening to me, and I was able to help. And it was downhill after that. I had a family that was in the business, and when I got out, they helped me get into the business, and been a financial advisor ever since.
You really focus on the Roth IRAs. Kind of tell me why that's a key focus for you.
So I'll give you some background on that. Is I came into the business after the Navy in 1996, and you know, like any other planner or agent at the time, you're talking about life insurance and annuities, mutual funds. In 1998, the Roth IRA was introduced by Senator Roth of Delaware, and that went into being in 1998. And I said, this is it. This is so smart. Everybody should be doing this, because it just made sense that the money's going to grow tax-free. At age, whatever it was back then, 70 and a half, you have to take money out of your IRA. A Roth IRA you didn't. And also the biggest term, and I really, talking about your series, I want to stress to people with the Roth IRAs, it's liquid. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like an IRA where there's a penalty to take it out after 5 years. Your principal is allowed to be pulled out. Your gains have to stay out there until you're 59 and a half, but your principal is accessible. So that's one of the key terms. But I feel that if it's the golden egg of investing, you know, what other investment, and it's not an actual investment, it's a tax code, but what other investment through a tax code can you invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, anything with tax-free growth?
Now, you don't just use traditional investments. You use insurance products. You're not afraid to use annuities. Kind of tell me some of the other products that you use and why you like them.
Along those lines, whether it's in an IRA or a Roth or just after-tax money, non-qualified retirement, annuities have, for the longest time, have had been likened to a bad, you know, it's like a used car salesman. Not that used car salesmen are, you know, you love used cars.
Right. That's what makes it
but there's a stigma, and you know, you see commercials from some of the big wealth managers how, you know, we don't do that. Well, why not? You know, why wouldn't you provide your clients an opportunity to have a product with guarantees or some type of protection that they can't get in your traditional mutual funds, ETF, stocks account? So I've used them more and more in my practice. I've been enlightened by a lot of the newer products that have come out. For years, some of the investment banks have used structured notes, and they've been repackaged. And there's first couple companies, and now almost every insurance company has what's called a registered index-linked annuity, RILA for short, as a lot of advisors use it. And what's great about these, there's no management fees for most of them. Some have variable sub-accounts linked to them, but the big thing is they're linked to the stock market through an index, whether it be the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, the S&P 500. And using option contracts, they'll give you some upside benefits of the market, but also give you some downside protection. So unlike some other products where there's no chance of downside loss, but they cap your upside, these products for no implied fee, mind you, there's for a lot of these, there's no fee added. If the S&P 500 is here, 1 year and 5 years later it's here, you're getting those returns. And sometimes the term that I'm really excited about now is what's called a participation rate. So some of these products will have, and just off the top of my head, what's out there now, these numbers are going to change based on interest rates and volatility of the markets. But right now, some of the participation rates of 125 or 150% of what the S&P 500. So without guaranteeing, we can't guarantee anything, but I could say if the S&P 500 is up 50% after 6 years, but you have a 50% participation rate on top of that, meaning 150% of whatever it does, 50% is now 75% return with some downside protection. So a lot of these products will have a death benefit tied to them at no cost. So I'm really, looking past just your traditional investments and educating clients on this as almost using as like a hedging strategy.
So David, you use RILAs, you use some of these other, what are some of the other products that you use, and why would you use those versus other products?
One of the other products, and a lot has to do with your book, Paychecks and Playchecks, and I reference it, but fixed indexed annuity products will have some type of guarantee, and right now they're very strong given the interest rate environment. But the way they work is they'll guarantee what's called an income account value. So it's not really how the underlying account value, like if you passed away or if you want to draw your money out, but there's a guaranteed income that's provided for either a single or joint life, kind of like a pension, where right now most companies aren't providing pensions for the average employee. So it's almost like you got to do it yourself. And some of these products allow you to do that. And they've resonated with clients when I show them as like a base. When we talk about, okay, we can, look at these RILAs or, have a managed portfolio of stocks and bonds and mutual funds. But it really resonates as a foundation to have some type of guaranteed income for life to accompany Social Security, and if you're lucky enough to still have a pension. So,
give us some tips on things that you tell young people on they have time on their side, and you said pay yourself first. What are some other things that you tell young people on how to build wealth?
Well, it basically gets back to what I said in the first place. Take advantage of what's offered to you, or even not. If you're a 21-year-old kid who's still in college, you're eligible to put the Roth. Take advantage of it. Throw as much as you can into the Roth. Every year they've increased the limits for inflation, and that's the first place. So if you can take advantage of that, save. You have access. A lot of people are scared. Oh, I put money into an IRA, it's locked up. No, you have access to it. So that'd be the first thing. But also the power of compounding. If you really hit home with a younger investor. And I'll be honest, I'm not marketing to younger investors, but I get a lot of referrals from some of my older clients, whether it's their grandchildren or, sadly, a lot of clients are passing away. I have an older book, and I'm meeting with their beneficiaries, whether it be nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and it's educating from the jump.
So now, David, life insurance has been kind of a theme through these Millionaire series. A lot of my guests have talked about life insurance. Tell me some of the ways you're using life insurance in your practice.
Kind of like annuities, there's a taboo around life insurance, but if people understood the tax rules that are involved with life insurance, they know that this is a powerful product that can create not only the help for a loved one, if you pass away, but also the fact that it creates tax deferred growth that could actually be drawn out in a tax-free manner in cash value life insurance. But at the same time, when I started out, what they kind of beat in our head with life insurance was, if you want to have a large estate, you have to protect something, and life insurance provides an estate for you, at your death immediately. So you could be a 25-year-old kid with a $500,000 or $1 million policy, and something happens to you, now you have $1 million estate. So it's key to any financial planning, protection. So we talked a lot about, growing your wealth, but also protecting it. And, the third item might be distribution, but for someone who's just getting out, you think about it, if you're a 28 or 30-year-old young couple with a kid on the way and you just bought a house, why not have life insurance to protect all that? If one of you, most couples now are young professionals or are both working, what happens if one of the couples dies?
You work with a lot of beneficiaries. You work with children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. Are you seeing some themes among the beneficiaries of what are you seeing?
I work with, even before some of my older clients, I make it a point to talk to the beneficiaries, just to let them know who I am, through my client. Hey, reach out to your daughter or your son, let them know who I am if they want to come in or give me a phone call. But some of the reasons are when I have a large IRA or even large non-qualified annuity, or any other type of, there are tax benefits to having a named individual that at death, that money could be passed on without creating a taxable event. Now, if you were, a beneficiary and you just go, my grandmother died and she left me this IRA, you're going to know, okay, well, where's the claim form? Well, they don't know that there might be a $100,000 tax bill, or a tax bill on $100,000 at the end of the year, because they took their grandmother's IRA out when they could have stretched it out over 10 years. So again, working with an advisor, it would help you understand some of those. And just, when you're making big decisions like that, it would always make sense to talk to someone who knows the law and knows the rules.
Well, David, this has been great. Now, I know there's some people out there, they say, hey, I want that guy as my advisor. So if somebody wants you as their advisor, what can they do?
So just look, I'm licensed in most states. I'm a licensed registered rep who is able to provide investment products, and I'm licensed for insurance products also in most states. Look me up, tauberassetmanagement.com. I'm in Central Connecticut, but again, I work with clients all over the country, and that's probably the easiest way to find.
tauberassetmanagement.com.
Correct.
Hey, we've been with David Tauber today. What a great interview. Thank you so much for joining me today, David.
Thanks a lot, Tom, for having me.
I am really excited about our next guest, Justin Donald. He's an author, podcaster. He wrote The Lifestyle Investor. He's all about having a great lifestyle for your entire life. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thanks, Tom.
I know a little bit about your background, but the audience doesn't. So please, how did you get from the beginning to where you are now?
Well, in a condensed version, I think I basically found mentors that I could learn from, that I could model after, because I recognized that it was going to take a lot more steps to do it on my own. So instead of all the trial and error, I just found people that I could learn from along the way. Got started early in real estate investing, got started in companies and starting a company, investing in companies, and over time, with enough singles and doubles, just built a big portfolio, and really just wanted to create this brand and this movement to help educate people that there's another way than what maybe they've heard in the past, and to be able to buy your time back and be intentional with how you spend your life, a life by design rather than a life by default. That really has been the mantra, the mission, the theme that I really want to teach people.
So now, what is this whole Lifestyle Investor all about?
Well, so the brand itself is kind of really started as just an idea that I didn't know if it would actually catch fire, but I had really built an incredible life with my family that was based on, intentionality, based on kind of carving out what it was that I wanted to do and how I wanted to live. And I bought assets that produced the income that supported that lifestyle. And so for me, it was truly about kind of breaking free of the golden handcuffs and living that life by design. So the brand is really kind of a symbol or a movement to help others do the same thing.
Now, cash flow investing is different than just traditional investment investing. So kind of talk about this cash flow investing.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing here, I remember when I was younger, when I was in college, graduating from college, early in my career, and in my head, I had this idea that I needed to earn $1 million. And I didn't know if that was, in one fell swoop in 1 year of income, or if that was to over time build up to it. I knew eventually I wanted both, but to me, it made sense that I would try to earn my way there. What I found along the way is that I could actually be financially free without being a millionaire, and in the process become a millionaire. And so for me, the time my wife, my family, my daughter and I, all of us were financially free and living on the passive income that we created, we weren't even millionaires yet. But we had total financial freedom. And from there, we just kept growing that passive income, buying more assets that produced income. And the net worth, in turn also grew kind of by proxy, right? But the focus was the cash flow, not just, a net worth or, a personal financial statement. I think those are important for certain things, but to me, cash flow trumps net worth because you get utility today versus utility tomorrow.
So Justin, you said there's 10 commandments in your book. Can you go over at least a few of them with us?
Yeah, sure. The first one is lifestyle first, because for me, that's what the whole book is built around. The whole movement is around lifestyle first. And so before anyone invests, before anyone does anything, I think it's important to get clear on, what do you want out of life? What's an ideal life look like? I was so busy at one point in my life that I just went on autopilot, put out, it was like problem, fire. It's like I go through all day just doing that, and it's like I'm responding all day. I'm not proactively thinking, or, I'm not on my schedule. And so to take the time to say, hey, here's what an ideal life looks like. Here's what it costs me to live right now. Here's what it would cost me to live that ideal life. Oh, and by the way, over here's my survival income. Here's what it cost me just to survive. How do I get there in passive income? How do I create an investment criteria so that I make better decisions? So before I invest, what is it that I want out of my investments? All these things to me are that life by design and kind of building it. So I think that comes first. It comes before any investment. That's why it is lifestyle investor, not investor lifestyle, right? The second one is to reduce the risk. And I wanted to really just parlay off of, the great Warren Buffett, that we've got to mind risk. We've got to de-risk deals as best as we can. And so that's my prerogative, that I want to make sure if I'm going to do a deal, how do I make it so I can't lose everything? Like if it goes bad, maybe I lose money, but not everything, just some of it. But if it goes well, and how do I de-risk it to the point that maybe I don't lose anything and I just get my money back, right? And then if it goes well, though, there's still some good upside. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of tools there and mechanics, from being in a senior secured position, having collateral, having personal guarantees, having the collateral be worth far more than the actual dollars in a deal, or in whatever the transaction is. So that to me is important to get out of the way first, and to think about that, because if you lose money, you got to work twice as hard to get that money back for what you lost compared to what you would need moving forward. So it just doesn't make sense to lose.
Now, how do you see the investment landscape changing over the next 12 months?
It's interesting. It's always changing, right? And interest rates are going to affect that. I think we're coming upon a time where just the dynamics of the world are going to shift. I mean, especially here in the United States, we've got baby boomers who are retiring. The largest wealth transfer in the history of the world is about to happen. So you've got estimates anywhere from 70 trillion on up to 110 trillion, I've heard from different reports, that is going to transfer from baby boomers to millennials. So when you think about what the landscape looks like today and what it's going to look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years, I think that some of the greatest opportunities that have ever existed are going to be present. So that's anywhere from small businesses, mom and pop type businesses with baby boomers retiring, to real estate that they want to sell, to real estate that's handed down to children that don't want the real estate and they sell it. There's just going to be this huge wealth transfer like we've never seen before. I mean, the wealth transfer, the size of, greater than the second wealthiest country in the world.
Now, what about Social Security? Because that is like a cornerstone of everybody's retirement, but it's in trouble, it's not in trouble. What are your thoughts around Social Security?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, even just all the vehicles, all the government qualified plans and things that the government sponsors, they haven't always been in existence. They may not always be in existence in the future. I mean, we're in a time of life, a season of our economy where we've got to control spending a little bit better. And if we don't, the natural byproduct, the repercussions of it are that Social Security isn't going to last, right? Right now it's projected to run out in 2032, I think, or 2033. So if we don't get some things fixed, that's trouble. I mean, we can talk about pension plans and really how those failed, the new 401k, but how those aren't cutting it. And really, we're just in a time of life where things may shift. We can't rely on this. We can't be dependent upon something that is likely not going to be there in 10, 15, 20 years.
I know you have a mastermind community, so are there any other trends that you and your community are watching right now?
Yeah, we try to pay attention to this. In my book, The Lifestyle Investor, I have these 10 commandments for cash flow investing, for passive income and financial freedom. And the third commandment is finding invisible deals. And what does that mean? Well, certainly deals that are off market, certainly deals that are maybe early on in the trends of, what is going on here in the U.S. or in the world, even paying attention to trends of future generations that are going to become more prevalent, like millennials. And so, to me, I'm always paying attention to that. What do millennials like to do for fun? How do they shop? How do they work? How do they travel? Like, what are all the things that millennials do? Because that is going to be what's in style in the future, or that's going to be, the trend or the reality. So my goal is, how do I catch something early enough on that it's not mainstream yet, but it becomes mainstream, kind of like mobile home park investing, or one of the first companies that I started with a bunch of friends is a single family home maintenance company, which was, very successful, but also specialized in a niche that was a brand new asset class. And so what are the other things? I got into e-commerce early. I got into, a lot of different technology, AI, robotics, a lot of these things early on. And so I think if we can identify what that looks like, and to give a specific one, I think that we're starting to see that our nation is moving a lot more towards onshoring, reshoring, manufacturing, and trades more with Mexico than with China. So you've got border towns that become more relevant. You've got port cities that become more relevant. The infrastructure around there, from housing to industrial, is totally different and becomes more relevant in those instances. If we're going to be doing a lot more trade here and just cross-border, we're going to need things that support that trade, which I do think is good for our country. I also think that it's the inevitable. So what are when I look at trends, it's that. It's, what towns or cities, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, I want to invest in New York City, Los Angeles, Austin, Chicago, right? The big cities. But what's the city that's not big yet that's going to be big? And
like a Nashville or something.
Yes,
Nashville's booming.
That's exactly right. And so to be on the cutting edge there of location or industry, sector, niche, that I think is going to be huge.
So what's next for you, and what's next for Lifestyle Investor?
Well, I'm excited. Some of what we're doing is rolling out some white glove travel inside of our Lifestyle Investor Mastermind community. That's kind of our flagship offering, but we're waitlist right now, and it's highly selective for that community. But we have, another community for anyone that's ever done anything with purchasing a book or a course, any product that we've ever done. We've got another community for them, and this is new. We're building that out, which is really fun. done and giving them access to, advisors and whatnot. But my goal really is to just get the word out, to teach, to educate, to let people know there's another way to do things. I think we hear from Wall Street that you need your money in the markets, and that is one way. But I don't know that it makes sense to have all your assets in any single thing. I think that's highly risky. And if you look at the wealthiest people in the world, and I study this data, like this is what I geek out on. The wealthiest people in the world, specifically even the U.S., their asset allocation is broken up, generally about 20 to 25% in public equities, 20 to 25% in real estate, 20 to 30% in private equity, and then the rest in everything else. And so, to find that the wealthiest people in the world have over half of their net worth in private equity and real estate is really eye-opening. And so I want to help people understand how to do that and let them know that there is a path for it.
I know people are going to want to get your book. I know they're going to want to follow up with you. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, the best place is to go to lifestyleinvestor.com. Everything that we do is there. I've got all kinds of free stuff like blogs and, podcast. My book is offered there, and we go into like coursework. So there's a Lifestyle Investor online course. There's master classes on tax strategy, which is our newest one, on mobile home park investing, on passive income. We've got our mastermind there. And one of the things that we love to do is really give people get people moving in the right direction. At the end of my podcast, I always say, what's one step you can take today to move towards financial freedom and move towards a life that you desire, that's on your terms and not by default, but by design, right? And so for anyone in your community that wants that next step, we've got these consultations that we do that are normally $500, but we'd love to offer that to your community absolutely free if you go to lifestyleinvestor.com/consultation.
Hey, Justin, this has been really great. I'm so glad you joined us, and I think your Lifestyle Investor merged with my Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. People could put those things together. They could become wealthy and to be happy and successful, and they could retire. It's not impossible. There's people doing it all over the world.
100%.
So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Tom. This has been a lot of fun, and I couldn't agree more that our two strategies and philosophies combine quite well.